Welcome to the Pivot Experience podcast, where leadership transformation isn't just a concept, it's a journey we take together. This is where real leaders share real stories about the moments that changed everything. In each episode, we dive deep into the pivotal experiences that transformed good leaders into great ones. Whether you're a seasoned executive, a rising star in your organization, or someone ready to take that next big step in your leadership journey, you're in the right place. Get ready to learn, grow, and maybe even find that spark that ignites your own leadership pivot. This is the Pivot Experience podcast, where your next breakthrough starts here.
What's up and what's happening, TPE family? We're back with another episode of the Pivot Experience podcast, where our aim and goal is to help you pivot into your next. As you guys know, I love to connect with leaders all across the country doing a myriad of things, because I believe those experiences that those other leaders have in this conversation will inevitably help you become a better leader, become a better person, become a better contributor to your community. And on today's episode, it is no different. I have the pleasure and joy of hosting a young man by the name of Everett O'Keefe. He comes to us from the West Coast. Is that correct, Everett?
Yeah, Central California, Fresno area.
Okay, the West Coast, love it. And we're glad to have him on the show today. How are you doing today?
Doing awesome, Alex. Thanks for having me on this. And you guys provided great service through this podcast.
Well, I appreciate that. We definitely try to help our audience of young leaders, entrepreneurs, give them something that would help them think about their leadership journey a little bit differently and help them understand that they can add value. So, I love to talk to the seasoned professional, the seasoned entrepreneur. I also like to talk to the person who's new to this thing we call leadership. And so, I believe that my audience spans and hits, between all of those facets. And I think your story today, from the way I understand it, is going to definitely help us get into it. So let's just jump right in. You've been recognized. Now, this is heavy stuff here. By the Wall Street Journal, USA Today. You're a number one best-selling author. But before all of those accolades, before all of that, who is Everett? How did we get to this point?
Yeah, Alex, the more important accolades are that I'm a father of 3 kids that are now grown. I'm the husband of a wife we're at 35 years now, I think, is where we are. And I'm a follower of Christ, and those are way more important than any of that other stuff. But but those other things tend to be the credentials that play well in the business world. So, we talk about those things too. So, yeah, kind of fun. Alex, I grew up never thinking I was going to be a publisher. I thought I was going to be an English teacher. Did my undergrad and graduate work in English Lit and all of that. Then I kind of got sucked into the business world, and roundabout started a marketing company with a good friend of mine, and later we pivoted it to the whole thing to publishing. And the reason we did was because we realized that publishing a book is an incredible way for people to share their message, to demonstrate their leadership, to build their brand. We did like a test project with us, and when I was sitting there looking at my book above number 1 on Amazon, above John Maxwell and Malcolm Gladwell and a bunch of other famous authors, I'm like, hey, maybe we should be doing this for our clients. So that's in a nutshell how we got started doing book publishing, of all things.
Okay, awesome. No, that's a remarkable story to be even, I hope one day to be mentioned in the same category of sentences as a John Maxwell or a Malcolm Gladwell, man. No, that's amazing. And so you mentioning the pivot into helping people write books. And from my understanding, you've helped over 200 people publish books. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And without giving up too much, I know this is a part of your business. This is what you do. What are some traits that you see that are common between those authors that you have helped reach that level of success?
Well, I mean, your theme is pivot, and I've pivoted in my career several times over the years, and pivoting into publishing was a big one. And quite frankly, a lot of our clients are in the midst of a pivot. Either they're just beginning a journey in a new field, a new career, and they realize that if they published a book about it, that would dramatically accelerate, and improve their trajectory. Or they've been doing it for years. They've been in their field for years, and they're finally using a book to kind of concentrate and perfect their message, and to get that out to the world. Sometimes for the purpose of building their brand, sometimes for the purpose of legacy. But they all have a desire to get up, stand up, and share their message, their wisdom to the world, which is a pretty scary thing to do, right? I mean, suddenly you're putting yourself there for slings and arrows potentially, and all of that. But we're in this society that recognizes authorship as, if you're an author, you are an expert, and therefore that's who I need working for me, or with me. And so that whole expert status is just a huge deal that all of these authors are really counting on and benefiting from as they move forward.
No, it's funny that you bring that up. I've heard that in recent years, that if you want to be positioned or to validate some of your skill set, writing a book is one of the most effective ways of doing that. Personally speaking, and I always say this on my episodes, these episodes tend to be a little selfish for me too, because I get a chance to learn, I get a chance to understand a little bit more about the industry that the person that I have on the show is working in. But I think the thing I really want to know is, like, how do you even get started? Like, let me tell you, I'm gonna be transparent and vulnerable here. I can't tell you how many notes in note apps that I have, book titles, outlines, intros, chapter ones, preface, like just all kinds of stuff. And I've never really followed through with writing a book. Shamelessly enough, like, AI is here, so I'm thinking I'm gonna help get AI to help me get the book done, and still haven't come up with a full manuscript. So, like, how do you get past the hump of idea into actually implementing getting a book done?
Well, I tell you, Alex, first, you are in such great company. There's research that's been done that indicates that I've heard over 90% of people say they want to write a book someday. I have a hard time believing that, but let's just assume it's a big number, right? And I have met tons of people that have started books and started again and started again. And so you're in fantastic company. Don't beat yourself up over it. You just totally are. But the great thing is there are tools to move you forward. There are tools and methods to move you forward. And it's not one size fits all. There's a lot of different options to go. So AI can be a really great tool. I'm not a big fan of it doing the writing for you, but I am a big fan of it as a brainstorming tool and an organizational tool. One of the really successful methods for people to write a book to build their brand is to just write a book about the FAQs of their business. The things that your clients, your prospects, whatever, ask you all the time, the things that you can rattle off the top of your head, without even thinking about it. Because that's what people do. People struggle, like, what do I put in this book? How do I write this book? But heck, that we call that the FAQ model. You can write down 20 frequently asked questions about your business, rattle those off to your phone like voice dictation, and you can have the foundation for your manuscript in an incredibly short period of time. With AI, you can help it to refine some of those questions and to come up with the questions you haven't yet thought about. It's huge. Also, sometimes people need accountability. They just need someone to go down the road with them. And so we work with a number of really good book coaches, and their job is to work with authors to first determine why are they doing a book in the first place? Like what do they want to accomplish with it? And then help steer them towards that so that they can, complete the manuscript. Because we need a manuscript before we can create a book. And so anyhow, we lots of ways to help people create manuscripts. For some people, it's ghostwriting, and that's a valid tool. But there's a way out there for everybody, depending upon their time and their economy and things like that.
I love the fact that you gave us a very practical means to be able to get started. And I think this needs to be mentioned, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, but I think writing a book isn't a one and done thing. It's not like you get one shot to write a book in your lifetime, and that's the only book that you're allowed. You use your only author token is one, and you just use that, And so I love, that FAQ book is a great idea to get you introduced to the idea of it, the framework of it, the mechanics of it, and then again, that should be something that's natural to what you do, and then from there, then you might start to dive deeper into different subjects or anything like that. But no, I love that. That's very practical. So if you're listening out there and you say, I don't know where to start, I think we've gotten a very practical means to be able to get pen to paper and get something moving for sure.
And that model applies to any industry. You can use it for real estate. You can use it for car sales. You can use it for high-end coaching and consulting. You can use it for, one time I sat down and wrote a list of occupations. It came up, I was like a couple hundred occupations that it just was like, oh yeah, that lends itself to it. You own a gymnastics studio, you own a whatever, and then I loved what you just said, because it bears reinforcing that what you described as the author token. That I've never heard it phrased that way. I love it. I think it's fantastic. Yes, you have more than one author token in your life. And this is what really hangs people up. So this is why I'm glad you brought this up. People get really focused on creating like their opus, their masterpiece, their legacy piece that they're going to leave to the next generation. That's great. Those are great things to have, but that may not be the first book. That may be the second or the third book. And what most people need, if they're writing a nonfiction book for the building of their brand, to get them on stages to speak, to help convert prospects to clients faster, to give them access to a higher level clientele. If this is why they're writing a book, they need to sometimes write a book rather than the book. And people get really hung up thinking that they have to write the book, that masterpiece, when an effective marketing tool in the shape of a book may be exactly what they need. And that's a lot easier to write, of course, than the masterpiece that defines your life.
Yeah, no, and I'll say this too, and I know, again, not getting too deep, and I think sometimes when you guys think about the duration of the book too, I think a lot of people get caught up in wanting to write the, I gotta have 300 pages. I gotta have, and it's like, if you can give them 50 to 100 pages, look at me, I'm talking like I wrote 10 books, but if you give them, I think, and so that's one of the things I often think about. It's like, it doesn't have to be, to your point, it doesn't have to be this massively written book where all of your life stories are there. Like, no, just pick one or two and then attach them to a subject and get to it. I guess I'm talking to myself in this interview as well.
Hey, you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job, Alex. And what you just said is important because it sets people at ease. They do not need to write 100,000 words. They shouldn't write 100,000 words. The sweet spot is really about 25 to 40,000 words. And that's going to create a book that's really about 110 to 160, 70 pages, something like that. And the reason is because you go longer, people don't finish your book. In fact, the longer you go, they're less likely to start your book. So the idea is to create a book that is large enough to allow you the space to convey your message, thick enough to actually be a book, not a pamphlet, and short enough to read on a cross-country flight. And that 25 to 40,000 words is great. And then when you think about it, that's not that hard to write. Many people, when they sit down to write, they can maybe knock out 1,000, 2,000 words. How many sittings does it take to get across that 25,000 mark? Really not that many, especially if you're repurposing, because repurposing existing content is another really easy way to write a book. You're right. You may have a keynote presentation you've done. You may have training videos. You may have blog posts. We've got a number of authors that gathered up their blog posts, reorganized them, and then those became their book. There are a lot of people listening to this right now who have that manuscript somewhere on their hard drive. It's just not labeled manuscript. It's in some other format.
No, most definitely. So I want to shift gears here a little bit, and I guess this might get into the business of publishing. So I feel like you're the type of person who expressed their emphasis on retaining control of the publishing, or at least retaining control during the process. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen leaders make in not safeguarding their message?
Wow. Well, you just asked probably the most important question. So the first big mistake is not understanding that there are not just two publishing models. There are 3 or more publishing models. A lot of people get really hung up on traditional publishing. And that is incredibly hard to break into. You have to have a massive following. And when you do go down that road, you are selling your intellectual property to the publisher. And you will be limited in how you can utilize that down the road. What's more, you pay too much when you buy your own book. You get paid too little when your book sells. And speed to market can be brutal. I keep hearing 18 to 36 months. And when you're in the business world, like, that's an eternity, right? You can't wait 3 years for the best marketing tool you'll ever create to actually go into play for your business. Self-publishing as an alternative, I'm a huge fan of self-publishing because you do keep ownership of your IP. You have creative control. You get your books at cost. You get all royalties, etc. But you also have to do everything and learn how to do everything. And if you do any one thing wrong, then the whole thing can be a disappointment. So in between is hybrid publishing. And there are different varieties of hybrid publishing as well. But our variety is this: we publish books in accounts our clients own, so that they maintain their complete ownership of their IP. They get their books at cost. All royalties flow to them. Their books are on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com and Walmart.com and where books are sold, etc. But they own everything. And in exchange, we just charge a fee for service, and that way our client has complete ownership. As a result, Alex, we get a lot of clients who went the traditional publishing route the first time and then realize it wasn't all it was cracked up to be, and they come back to explore an option where they own it. The whole traditional publishing route is just a real challenge. And it's understandable because most people go that route because they think they're going to get marketing. That's what they're really going to like traditional publishing for. They think they're going to be on radio shows and TV shows, and there's going to be book signings, and they're going to get all these things. And then they get really sadly disappointed that they don't end up getting those things. It really still falls back on the author. Well, in the hybrid space, we just draw bright lines. We're like, here's what we do. Here's what we don't do. And at the end of the day, our author owns and controls it. And that's critical.
No, I appreciate your honesty there. I guess the question for me, again, this might be just a selfish question. When you talk about the hybrid method for you, that's the one you lean more into. And is there, and you might have answered this question, and I apologize if this is redundant, but you coach us, or coach me, I'm gonna say me, coach me into a self-publishing model. Are there different ways I can go about self-publishing, or is there like just a standard method?
What we do is, some people have called us concierge self-publishing or done for you self-publishing. I still think of it as a hybrid publishing model, because while we set it up where you own everything, we're providing all the copy editing, we're providing the layout, we're providing the cover design, By the way, cover design, usually our process generates like 100 to 200 concepts for authors rather than like one or two concepts, which is really common in the traditional world. And so, but we do all of these things for the author, but we're doing it in accounts that they own. So it's why I describe it really as the best of both worlds.
Gotcha. Where do you see the future of publishing going over the next 5 or 10 years? I mean, you seem to be entrenched in it. You have a thumb on the pulse. Where do you see this thing going, and what role do you think you're going to play in?
I wonder some of these that last answer myself, because we'll see, as things migrate. But I can tell you that AI is providing some really cool opportunities in publishing. Of course, people are utilizing it as a tool to assist them as they're writing their book, and that's a really obvious way. But there is a new format that may be launching into the market shortly, basically an AI book, and this will basically replace the Kindle book or the ebook if it gets enough traction. And what that book will do is allow people to read the book on the fly in multiple languages, and in audio in multiple languages as well, and be able to also turn around and ask questions of the book, basically interview me, the author of my book, right through the interface. Create study guide, create a workbook, do any number of things. Even down the road, I suppose, write derivative works like, you have maybe your favorite novel and your favorite character in a novel, and you're like, hey, you know what? Write me a story about this person doing blah, 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 and it be able to do that. It's really incredible. So I see something along those lines as being the future of publishing. And then where our role sits in it is interesting, because right now I think there's a great democratization of publishing, which is fantastic. Akin to what you're doing here, there's this democratization of media where you can create a podcast, and you are, I know you're like 80 plus episodes in this series, but I think you've published over 250 episodes overall. And by the way, people need to know what a big deal that is, Alex. Congratulations. That's huge. It's so much work. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah. So we're in this democratization period of media, and it affords great opportunities. What publishing looks like in 5 years is probably the same question of what does podcasting look like in 5 years. But I will say wisdom is timeless. And wisdom has to be disseminated in a clear, consumable way. And whether we're doing that through books or podcasting or some yet unknown sort of media, I don't really know, but it's going to be exciting to watch.
No, you're hitting. I think AI is transforming the way we do things, but I think there was an initial scare with AI when it first rolled out. ChatGPT first showed up on the scene. I think people were shaking in their boots, and then they start to realize is that, hey, the AI is only as good as what you do with it, and then how you execute after the model has done what it's supposed to do. So I think that kind of speaks to the wisdom component of it. It's just not going to do everything for you. You're going to have to still work. If I wanted to stand out as an author, now this is, again, you can answer this question however you want to. If I wanted to stand out amongst my peers as, one of those top-notch authors, what are a few things that you think I need to do, not me, anyone listening, what they would need to do in order to be able to achieve that?
Well, first, let's recognize that authorship by itself is an incredibly rare accomplishment. Okay. I describe it as breathing rare air. A huge number of people want to be authors. A huge number of people start to write books, and a very small number of people ever finish their manuscript and see it published. And so if you want to, even just in peers in general, standing out and having a book is an incredible way. It doesn't matter what your industry is, but the odds are the other people that you're competing against in any industry are not authors. And the fact that you are puts you head and shoulders above all the rest. But now to stand out among authors, that's harder, right? That's a much harder thing. First, it means a professionally published book, not something that looks self-published. It looks like you did it on your own. It needs to be something that's gone through the hands of professionals, both in editing, in layout, in cover design, in publication method, et cetera. All of those things need to be professionally done. I will say that a poorly published book is worse than no book in many ways. I think, and I've seen plenty of them, and you have too. You're like, okay, this guy did his cover on Word. He published it at Kinko's, or whatever it is, right? And you're like, it's a nice effort, right? But so it needs to be professionally published. And then we carry our authors through an Amazon bestseller launch strategy, so that if we've done our job correctly, and if the author's done their job correctly, that it should make them an Amazon #1 best-selling author for at least a short period of time. That's another way to stand out. And we will turn around and rebadge the cover of the book to be reflective of that, so it follows that author going forward. The other thing I think for a lot of authors to know, especially in the business world, it is certainly not about making money selling books. That is the hardest thing in the world to do. Well, I'm sure there are harder things, but that's a really hard thing to do. It's not about making money selling books. It's what does it do with your brand? I am convinced there are a lot of people that will make a lot more money giving their book away than they will selling the book. If you can put one on every seat when you speak, if you can put one in the hands of every prospect, you bundle it in with speaking to increase your speaking fees, whatever, but you just need your hands in people's books so they hear your message and then come to you and your company or brand for the big sale, because nobody wants to make their ROI like 1 digit at a time, right? They'd rather make their ROI 3, 4, 5, 6 digits at a time.
Okay. So I'm going to try to extract 2 key thoughts from what you just said.
Okay.
And tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, I'm trying to make this as, first and foremost, I heard you say you have to invest in creating a good product.
Sure.
I heard you. I think I heard that loud and clear.
Absolutely.
You have to be willing to if you want, a lot of people want to extract a lot out of the world. You have to be willing to sow. In order to reap, you have to sow. And so to me, that is where the investment comes into play. Even if they don't partner with you, partnering with someone who is a professional to be able to give you a look on your the way the book is written, the outline, so everything lines up. You kind of dated us a little bit by saying Kinko's because
okay, UPS or whatever, right?
I'm just kidding. I say Kinko's still too. I still say Kinko's, and I'm like, okay, I gotta remind myself when I talk.
That's true. That brand isn't even around anymore, right? Because didn't it get sucked up by
it's FedEx. It's FedEx.
All right, there you go. Yeah.
But no, just you can't just do. Maybe for your personal copy, for your personal review, you do that. But when you're talking about trying to reach the masses, that you have to have a product that's worth that you would pay for it. I always pose the question: would you pay full price for that? If you're whatever you're selling, paying full price for it. Number 2, please correct me if I'm wrong. Your book can act more as a lead magnet than a standalone product. So you're looking to use the book as the hook to draw them into the real service or products that you furnish. And if you do a good job of marrying your investment and pointing them to your business, then you will stand out as an author. I mean, I think as your business becomes more successful, it's almost reciprocal. The book gets them to your business. If you do a great job at the business, that helps validate the book even further. What I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and a lot of people, a lot of people talk about a book in the business world as the new business card. You do that instead of a business card, and incredibly powerful. But it doesn't. I wouldn't want to it doesn't downplay the quality of the book and the quality of the message. It is complete in itself. It's not like I'm just going to tease you, so I don't want to think of it as like the ebook download that, we've seen in internet marketing for the last 20 years. It's a real physical book, and it's a real accomplishment. It is a point of authority. And books are crazy, right? Because they're durable. They stick around. Someone has a book, you get a book in someone's hands, whether they bought it or you gave it to them. They're not going to throw it away. It's going to sit on their desk or their nightstand or bookshelf or whatever. In my book, The Power of the Published, I've got a section where I talk about the power of the unread book. Like, that book is continually sitting there screaming your expertise and your authority every time someone sees it. They don't, whether they read your book or not, they're going to be influenced by it. And that's powerful. And that's going to be true for your lifetime and beyond, because that book's going to outlive you. I don't know anything else we create to build our business that's really going to outlive us. So it's just so their books are just crazy powerful in so many different ways. My book, I wrote a book called The Power of the Published, and in it, I describe all sorts of ways that a book can impact your business, and also talk about publishing strategies and launch strategies and writing strategies. And so all of those things are there. But man, don't get me started. I could go forever on it.
No, this is what we're here for. I think you've done a good job of reaffirming in my mind the need for myself personally to pursue writing a book. And I think I've got some really, 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 really good practical steps that I can at least get the journey started again. Get the ball rolling again. But if there's one last thing, and we're going to move on to one of my favorite segments of these interviews here. But if there's one last thing that you want to put out there to anyone who's on the fence, anyone who's not even thinking about writing a book, and I already think you've done a wonderful job of selling the idea of you need a book. You need a book. For if it's not anything for legacy. Man, my pastor in my church has written 10, 15 books, and he's always saying that, to what you just said, like, hey, grandma or grandpa wrote that book, and even if you go on, the legacy of you doing that speaks volumes of not only you, but it inspires generations to come after you. So if there's anything that you want to say on behalf of this idea of being an author, being a published author, what would it be?
Yeah, I'm going to go for two things. I've got it. So the first one is, if I were making a pivot to a new industry or a new chapter in my life, I would strongly consider what impact a book would have on making that pivot, accelerating the journey, improving the trajectory in that process. The second one is for those people who have started a book, or they've got it and it's sitting on their hard drive or something. That's the worst book ever, is the book that's sitting on a hard drive. And that's the tragedy. So you want to get it out there, because honestly, would you rather be the one who read the book or the one who wrote the book? And when it comes into the business world, and also for nonprofit organizations and all sorts of things, having that book is powerful.
Wow. Well, I think, like I said, I've got enough juice in the battery now, or enough gas in the tank to go. At least have a goal of this, maybe summer of 26 having something done. So, all right. Thank you so much for that. And before we officially finish, I'm gonna give you the roadway to let people know how they can connect with you, how they can do business with you. But before we do that, we got our tradition here at the Pivot Experience Podcast, and we're going to play a game I like to call Tug of War. And Tug of War, simple rules. I'm going to give you two words. You have to pick one. And these words may create some internal tension. Maybe not. Some people rattle these answers off really quickly. Some people have a little tug of war on the inside about how they want to answer these questions. And so, are those clear instructions, Mr. Everett? Or do you?
They're clear, but now I'm worried. Give me some anxiety here.
Well, I hope not. I think you're going to breeze right through these. And so here's your first set of words, okay? Confidence or humility?
Okay, you did warn me that I'd want to go with both.
Yes, I did.
But I think, wow. Wow. All right. I'm going to play by your rules. I don't like your rules, but I'm going to play by your rules.
Thank you.
I think humility. I think confidence is critical for success because you got to put yourself out there and stuff. But I've seen a lot of people that were really confident that you wondered about their humility. And so I think humility. I think confidence without humility is bravado. And humility without confidence is still really attractive.
Yeah.
So,
no, great answer. There's no wrong answers here. These are your answers. There's not a wrong answer. Because again, you would prefer to have both of these, in a perfect world. But for the sake of the segment, you got to pick one. All right. Next to the words, vision versus execution.
Oh, there's more of these.
Oh yeah, we've got.
Oh my God.
You've got a total of 5. So we just
okay. Well then, that's good for me to know because then I got to pay. So I don't spend too much on on any one of these. Thanks for the heads up.
Okay.
I'm going to say execution, and the reason I say execution, and I recognize that execution without vision can be a lot of really bad execution, but vision without execution is lost. It never happens. It just stays in someone's head. Whereas execution, even imperfect execution, can bring about results. I believe that phrase "done is better than perfect," and I believe that imperfect execution can create a lot of really great things.
No, I think that's the equivalent of the book on the hard drive.
Yeah, right. That our vision is stuck on the hard drive.
I think those two go together. All right, here's our third one: courage versus wisdom.
I guess this time I got to go back to wisdom. I got to go back to wisdom because courage without it is just bad. It's just like walking into the lion's jaws. Maybe that's really courageous. But the wisdom would be don't. So.
All right, urgency versus patience.
I'm going to go back to urgency. I say go back because I'm thinking of going back to execution. And this doesn't just apply to authorship, but I've met lots of people who they've been working on their book for years and they've had lots of patience, but no urgency to make it happen.
No, great answer. Here's your last set, man. We're almost done. Almost out the hot seat. Okay.
All right.
Clarity versus flexibility.
You're terrible. Like you put everyone through this. Oh my gosh. Clarity versus
flexibility.
Flexibility. I'm gonna go flexibility. I love clarity. I love it. But flexibility, you can work your way to clarity eventually. I don't know. That's a tough one. They're both critical.
No, I'll let you have that one. Right? You can have both on now.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I'll be able to sleep tonight.
Yeah. All right, Everett, man, you have been a pleasure to host tonight on the show. I really enjoy. There's a lot of conversations I have that are conceptual, or like idea based, but I really feel like we had a lot of like nuts and bolts, tangible, go do this type conversation, and I really appreciate that because I think the audience sometimes need like, hey, tell me what to do. A lot of great information here, but like I need to know what am I doing here. And so in conjunction with that, I would love for you to share how does one get connected with you if they wanted to reach out to you guys to be able to help them on their journey of authorship.
Thank you. And I'll give 2 options. One is if they want to just talk with me about their book or their idea for a book, whether it's just some idea in their head it's a manuscript they've already written, or even a book that's already been published, there are things we can do for that. They can reach out to me through our website. That's ignitepress.us, ignitepress.us. And then another option is if they want a copy of my book, The Power of the Published, they can get a download version of it for free. I set it up at mypodcastperk.com, mypodcastperk.com, where they can download that, or it'll also link them to Amazon where they can buy a paperback or a Kindle version if they prefer.
Well, there you have it. If you want to get into authoring, I think this is a great opportunity for you. There is an option to go to the website, and then there's a free option to get the book. And I don't know what's stopping you right now. If you need to pause the episode, head over to, what was it, My Podcast Perk.
mypodcastperk.com.
Okay, there you have it. This is a great resource for you. I know that I'm definitely going to take advantage of it myself, because I would like to know a little bit more, at least one of the options, a little bit more on how to, I guess, accelerate or ignite. There we go. Ignite my journey into becoming a published author. Well, I thank you again so much tonight, Everett. It has been a joy and a pleasure. And until next time, TPE family, peace.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. And I just want to slip this in right quick so you'll never forget. It's all about progress over perfection here at TPE.
Tap into the Pivot Experience, where we help young, hungry entrepreneurs move on to the next step.